won't soothe your pain. I won't ease your strain.
Well, as you know, this is part 6 of When the Police Captured Me, and if you haven't listened to the other, 5, then go do that, because that would make sense, and it's a good story, and if you haven't done it, go do it. Now, for those that have listened, please go share this, go join the Facebook group, go do everything that's in the descriptor down by the descriptor thing. There's loads of stuff going on in the werewolf world. There are books, there are books, and there are YouTube channels, and there are Twitters and Instagrams and shit, all sorts of stuff. So go and be part of the team, go part of the community. If you're a weirdo and you're a bit scary, then go find us, and you will be taken in paw by paw. Anyway, moving on. So as you probably know, I've escaped Her Majesty's pleasure. It's not Her Majesty anymore, is it? His Majesty? I don't know. Yeah, and I am currently on the run, as we say in the criminal and werewolf fraternity. I had been locked away for a while, so it was time to take that time back in a myriad of fun ways and enjoy the rest of the nights on the streets of London. Londinium. Yes, I was a werewolf in London. How cliche is that? The beauty of this place is its myriad of little alleyways and bolt holes. It's not like an American planned place. There are dark spots and parks everywhere. It's kind of a sort of designed for murder and mugging maze. It has loads of lovely cover with lovely dark shadows that help me blend lovely into the night. Lovely. I'd already dispatched a couple of random drunks on a long winding way home from the sites of their inebriation. They had kebabs in their hand. They'd been doing that 3 steps forward, 1 step back walk of the truly pished, honestly. It was poor sport and nothing to tell you about. It was just that they were there and then they weren't. Well, they were, but they weren't there anymore. They kind of resembled their kebabs, but on a larger scale without the pitta or the salad, if you know what I mean. Now, the bus crash. That was lots of fun, though. That was worth talking about. I'd waited on the pavement of Western Way for a vehicle of some size to come along. At first I just wanted to, hit something large and maybe white vanny, but when the bus presented itself, it was too much in the way of werewolf points not to take. The bus was packed with people, some going to work, some coming home from a night out, and I needed to commit some atrocities. No, that's wrong. I wanted to commit some atrocities to, feel good about myself. What can I say? My ego is the size of a small planet, so it needed to be fed after being captured and humiliated. After spotting the passenger-laden Meals on Wheels bus, I waited it to go past. The wolf in me started the chase like a pitiful dog chasing a car, but bigger. I know that dogs like to chase cars, but what would they do if they actually caught one? Well, the answer is, I think, not a lot. If I caught the bus, however, I would do an awful lot of awful to those on the bus. It would be awful for those people, but awfully good fun for me. As I drew up alongside it, loping in my long strides, I could see the masses of passengers start to take notice and point and shout for others to come and see me running alongside. Phones were pointed and panic was seen on faces, so it had to be this moment. As the bus tried to take a corner, I leapt the barrier and barreled into the side of the double-decker, crashing through the windows and the metal bodywork of its left-hand side, showering glass and torn pieces of metal into the crowd. As I ripped my way into the bus, the driver, for some reason, who knows, lost control and ploughed into the traffic on the other side of the road. It was great! This was somewhat of a bonus, as it easily wiped out a Ford Fiesta and a Vauxhall Corsa. They sprayed debris as they spun and somersaulted away into the night. Those poor fuckers inside were probably, definitely dead, I guess. I do have to say, though, my favourite impact was the one that flipped a delivery scooter and the driver through the barriers and into the Boots the Chemist's. It landed in the first aid section. which is ironic if you think about it. It gave me a huge smile because he landed in the first aid section. People on the pavement scattered and panicked like terrified fowl, and life was getting better as accidents occurred left, right and centre from the initial smashes. Back on the bus, I tore up the centre of the lower deck, whipping left and right with tooth and claw, killing and maiming whatever I touched. The red flashing lights of wrath were in my brain. Fenrir, my werewolf soul, was ecstatic in the back of my mind as we ripped and wrenched people from their seats. I lifted a little Asian guy from his seat, okay to say. I'm not sure if that's racist or not, but yeah, bit his head off and spat it at what I assume was his little Asian wife. It might not have been, but it could have been. Who fucking cares? Whatever or whoever she was, she now sat screaming with a man's head upside down on her lap. A gift she would never forget, and the subject of many years of therapy, methinks. The out-of-control bus smashed through one more car and piled into a wall on the side of the road at the side of a culvert, and came to a sudden stop. This threw the passengers into a flap as they rebounded off hard metal items, floors, ceilings, and each other. They were like shit screaming rubber balls. I stopped my killing, stood in the walkway, and looked at the cowering humans. These are the moments you realise you are so much more than them. And I know that sounds arrogant. Well, guess what? I am better than you. I am. There's no equality or equanimity here. I'm a werewolf. You're not. Sorry. No one moved on this level, but moaning and shouting and crying could be heard from the upper deck. A man came banging down the stairs filled with expletives and anger. He turned and stepped off the bottom step filled with righteous indignation. His righteous indignation, which suddenly melted to utter righteous horror. His jaw opened and fell as he looked at me, and he now grappled with the situation that had been presented. He smiled, to the man's credit, raising a hand as if in greeting me. He then turned and made his way back upstairs a little more quietly. It would have been a perfect Scream movie comedic moment if he hadn't have been, or if he had been whistling on the way up the stairs. Sirens could now be heard in all the outside chaos. The chaos had kind of calmed down in the post-madness hush and the pre-response quiet. The new madness would soon start at the post-orgasmic appearance of the authorities. I had created a great piece of artwork here. Part of being a great artist is knowing when to stop working on the piece and fuck off. It was time to let this work do its own thing. I transformed back into the wolf and made my way from the bus. The werewolf was exiting stage right, but let the play continue without him. I was going to make those fucking papers tomorrow and hopefully not leave too many happy ever afters. I wandered the back streets as a wolf, a giant of a beast looking for my next bit of fun. As I go, I'm seen by people in their cars, but they dismiss my size and just see me as a big canine, a big dog. All the night is rent by the barking of those little dogs and their shitty little howls. Those domesticated little chumps making it known they know that I'm out here. Those little fuckers should be glad to be indoors right now. They would not be shouting if they were out here with me at this moment in time. I then smell them. A basement flat stands out as I make my way along the road. The smell of two young women comes to me, but they smell so special. The flavours are odd, old and foreign and somewhat decadent. I'm going to go and huff and puff and blow this door down. I find the unremarkable blue door and wait just for a moment, fading into the darkness of the stairwell down to their little flat. I need to be on them before they have time to react. Managing to get an uncomfortable phone call out, that would ruin my plans. So I have to use my speed to bring up this evening's proposed artwork. I rush at the door in my werewolf form and smash through it and make it a hole with my shoulder. I take a deep inhalation to find where the delightful smell emanates from. I run and burst through the bedroom door, coming to a somewhat scrambling halt on the fake wood floor of their room. Two beautiful women look at me over the top of a red duvet set and blink the sleep from their eyes. They're delicious to behold, and And this evening just became a lot more fun. One woman is black and the other looks somewhat Turkish to me, but I may be clinging to stereotypes at this moment in time. She did actually smell like Turkish delight. Maybe she wasn't Turkish then. Maybe she'd just eaten some Turkish delight. I'm starting to get worried I'm racist. No, definitely not. I hate all humans equally. The two women look at me in disbelief, not knowing whether they're all, still asleep and dreaming of being stared at by a creature of the nightmares, or if there was actually one standing at the end of the bed. They've not even screamed yet, and I don't think they will, as they have chosen to do that freeze response in my presence. They seem petrified while they look at me. They then look at each other, and then they scream. It was bliss, but I couldn't let them scream for long. So I leapt, and can you imagine the wet tearing stuff and then the screams stopping? After having a nice cup of tea and a couple of jammy dodgers, I left. I love middle-class couples' collections of tea, and this one was a particularly nice one, a ginger and honey. I think it's called Manuka honey tea. And it was just the thing to set up a warm-bellied werewolf for the night. I've talked about it before in an episode. I love Manuka and ginger. It's just, if I had my choice of tea, what do you mean? Tell me. Okay, yeah, I get it. I'll carry on. Yeah. I left the flat as a naked male. That was daft. But then I suddenly remembered and changed myself back to my black wolf to wander off once more into the icy night. Getting to kill the couple's cat as it accidentally bolted from the cat flap and accidentally bolted into my mouth was a super bonus. I fucking hate cats. I never chew. I grab, crunch, then spit. I'm not a swallower. I'm gentlemanly like that. It was now late, and I decided to find my next adventure of the night. I sniffed around, but at this time, away from the thoroughfares in the city, there were very few people about, so I had to do a little searching to find my, let's say, next giggle. Perfect. A London black cab with a London black cabbie sat reading his paper. The tantalising thought of managing to get into the cab as a werewolf without him noticing became a great fun idea for the both of us. He was engrossed in his paper, so I thought I might get in, that I might get away with it. I'd not really thought about the fact that I was now a lot too big to get into the cab easily. I bowed my head and forced my way into the cab. The suspension of the black beast was creaking and complaining about my entry, and the man reading the paper just grumbled, not looking up from what he was doing. I could hear what he was saying with my super hearing, though. He was saying stuff quite derogatory, mainly complaining to himself about how these kids are getting so fucking fat now. You need a fucking JCB to carry on this job soon. I saw the reflection of the paper in the rearview mirror at the front of his car. The headline read, "Beast of Belmarsh escapes." It was about me. No, it was about me. Me. I was the beast of... Oh, you get that? Sorry. It must have been fresh off the press. "All sorts out tonight, governor," he said, reflecting on the paper. "There's another fucking nutter out there, mate. Killed 20 people in his escape from maximum fucking security." Well, that annoyed me a bit. It was a much higher body count. I suppose I'd kind of blended some of those bodies that had gotten in the way, so it could be a while before they'd identified all the bits, but it was plenty more than 20. I just think that they could do a better job of, doing the numbers and stuff if they're going to make fucking, proper statements that go out there and stuff. "You'd best get yourself home, mate," the cabbie continued. He slowly folded his paper away and placed it neatly on the seat next to him. He sniffed, carefully removed his glasses and put them in his specs box. He was an older gent, and I could see he was fastidious in the upkeep of himself and the cab. It was beautifully neat and smelled fresh. He then asked, "Where to, governor?" as he raised his eyes to the mirror. Where he observed me. The entirety of the back of his cab was full of a black shadow, and he went quiet. "You're what, governor?" he questioned as he pivoted on the seat to face me in the back of the cab. I smiled. My carnassial fang-filled maw. the light reflecting off my teeth. And then I opened my eyes. They became amber pits of fire. He froze in his position. His mouth formed a stupefied "oh," and he stared at me. For sure he wondered what was going on. What was going on was a short and brutal future. What the fuck? He did not manage to finish his sentence before I had him dragged in the back of the cab, ripped and torn apart. The struggle was short, and the blood flow was large. When I stepped from the cab, the liquid pooled in the gutter and dribbled from the door. I then went on my merry way. As I now trotted along, I could hear singing. It was a her, I think, singing. Can you gender singing? Again, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready for this modern woke world. I followed the voice. It was magnetic and stood out from the early morning traffic and the commuters. I followed that voice. It compelled me to see who could create this beautiful noise. I wandered about the ways and the alleyways in wolf form. I ignored the detritus that shuffled its way into the hidey holes in which they spent the night. I wasn't interested in the refuse that was those unwanted people of the streets. Their misery was already fun enough for me, and the fear I generated as I passed made me smile. They cared not if they lived or died, so what was the fucking point? The voice continued, a song I did not recognize, but wow, the sun was rising and the dawn chorus of birdies, which you humans think is beautiful, was going on. As an animal, I recognize the reality of what is going on. The brief chirp was translated as, "Fuck off! Fuck off! This spot is mine!" Tweet, tweet, tweety. "Fuck off! Fuck off! This spot is mine!" The next whistling trill from another bird can be translated to, "Come on if you think you're hard enough." The last tribbled tune you could hear in reality was, "I'm honey, 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 honey." Very beautiful when you think of it in that way. Her song was much more beautiful than the birdies, but it ended and I felt and I thought it was over and I felt cheated. Thank goodness she started again, and I found the song's garden, the open window and the young woman singing. I couldn't see her, but the voice was a mellifluous. It was really nice. A siren song in the dawn. I'll do my best. I'll seek you out, flay you alive. One more word and you won't survive. And I'm not scared of your stolen power. I see right through you any hour. I can't do it justice. I cleared the gate in the back wall and entered into the big, open, spacious grounds. I now sat in the centre of the garden's beautifully mowed lawn, listening to this jaw-dropping song. I won't soothe your pain. I won't ease your strain. You'll be waiting in vain. The beast in me was tamed for the moment. Fen and I were silent and listening. I even embarrassingly noticed I had my head cocked in the manner of a listening dog. I got nothing for you to gain. I'm taking it slow, feeding my flame, shuffling the cards of your game. It was amazing. This song, with all the lyrics and the melody, was perfect. I couldn't have left if I wanted to. I needed to hear more and rest. But it ended, and I felt robbed. For a moment of its beauty, then I saw her at the open window. She'd obviously decided to maybe come close the window. Maybe she was leaving the house for the day or something. Our eyes met in that moment, and she stood some 25 feet up in the air like some Disney princess. Well, like a Disney princess with tousled hair and a blue super dry hoodie, but to me she looked like a princess. She didn't flinch. She just leaned on the windowsill, her chin on her hand, and stared. Her eyes were like sapphires. Her hair was a vivid red, and she had a little Mona Lisa smile. She just stared at me. She didn't seem scared. She just stared. We held each other's eyes for what felt like years, and then she sank back into the room and closed the window. I never heard or saw her again, and I didn't even get to kill her. Kinda weird. And then suddenly the sun was up, playtime was over. I just had to disappear. Thanks for listening. Go down to the description and do things, you wonderful, wonderful people. And as always, please realise that I love you. Bye.
I seek you out.